You are listening to the Firecracker Podcast with Tony Rico.
So, when you were at Cerritos, Birdland, did you realize it was kind of systematic what was going on? Or how about you as a player? Like, where were you at engaging as far as you as a player, and at what point? Like, for me, I call it systematic, right? It was systematic, just smart baseball.
Yeah, it was a machine. You know, there were some people that, you know, we didn't say much during our infield alpha routine. It wasn't rah-rah. There was heckling back in those days, and back before the NCAA made some rules about chewing tobacco and different things like that they got a hold of the athletes. It was the Wild Wild West a little bit. And I lost my train of thought.
Real quick about chewing tobacco. So chewing tobacco was big when I was playing ball. In fact, what I remember for anybody that plays ball, I don't know how, I would imagine this tradition goes pretty far, but man, if somebody spit on your shoe and hit your shoelaces, you got a free shot back at them or something. But I just remember I didn't chew. So luckily for me, because I got sick on it. And then I didn't want to play golf because they woke up too early to go golf. And then I stayed away from poker because I watched Craig Worthington beat everybody and take their money. And I told him he was never going to take my money. But walking down the dugout in Birdland, there was just nothing but gobs of like spit on the floor. I don't want to gross anybody out. And I can remember Fozzie, Dennis Foster,
Dennis
maybe,
Foster,
right here, just taking the Red Man and just taking bubble gum and just rolling it over. And part of it like looked pretty good just because it was pink and stuff, but. I didn't take me very long to kind of just puke my guts out on that. And
a lot of idle time in softball and baseball, Tony.
Yeah.
And then the tobacco companies, being as brilliant as they were giving it away back then, if you remember. Pouches of
the Red Man.
Leaf tobacco, Bull of the Woods, you name it, Red Man.
Yeah.
And then the Skull in Copenhagen and those kind of things.
Copenhagen was like the top of the top, right?
Yeah.
And that was,
And so, you know, if you weren't disciplined enough or smart enough not to go down those roads, you tried it.
Yeah.
And many threw up, like I did when the Downey Reds, when I was a bat boy for them, when I was 8 or 10 years old, gave me a beech nut chew, and I threw up and said I'd never do it again. And, you know, fast forward to Cerritos College, I put it back in my mouth again. So.
Well, and obviously, you know, and there's we always just have to quickly mention we don't condone it, we don't endorse it, but it was a part. Like any old school baseballers out there. Again, it wasn't my thing, but God, I remember some guys even on social time would put a little like whiskey or something in their Copenhagen or something. It was like it got pretty like hardcore, and it was like whoa. And then I learned about the dipshit. Which was just basically, I'll tell people, it was a way to start the morning. I would just see guys like that's how they had to start the morning. So I would just kind of watch that. And but going back to like, there's a lot more memories at Birdland, obviously. But another memory that I was kind of special to is my dad got to know your dad. So your dad used to go watch us play a lot. And so I believe, what year was your dad born?
Ooh,
remember?
1919.
So my dad was 24. So, and so I remember my dad talking about being able to talk with your dad a little bit. And that was kind of a special thing for me because I know where your dad was in your life and where my dad was. And
your dad was trying to get free stuff from the snack bar that my dad and my wife's dad, Francie, and Coach Serrano's dad, Sam, they ran the Bird snack bar.
Yeah, which also had its own kind of infamous kind of, what we won't talk to you about.
Yeah, there's some back rooms.
There could be a really uncut version of this, but but that was really kind of special because games were at 2:00, right? Always, and then the sun always sat behind, it sat behind first base, so there was always a certain time where that sunset was right there, and then we finish a Winter League game, and then there we are. And I remember you going over, like, we're not leaving till we go everything on this list, which was really important because that's where it all kind of soaked in for me. And like I said, I was too immature to appreciate in the moment and really apply it to myself because I was one of these guys that figured, man, I can do what I want with the bat, I can do what I want with the ball, and I'm good. And just you've seen it a million times with like players growing up. So it was interesting to watch those players, though, that did get it. The Ever Magianeses and even like Tony Trevino, and just there were some really great players on it. And again, I know that you've just had dozens of players, but that was like a really, really special time for me. And I'm really kind of proud to be like on your first head coaching gig because as I started to look through, man, coach, you were like it was like 16 or 18 Coach of the Year awards or something like that. There was a run of like, I know you're modest, but I mean, that's not 2 or 3, Coach. That's like ridiculous. And so, you know, that success that you started to have as a coach, do you attribute that to obviously a collection of things and influences and coaches, but what about just the experience at Birdland and playing for Coach Kincaid? Because as we start to, I want to talk a little bit about how and why Coach Garrido brought in you and Coach Snow at different times to help him with that program. So was that a big part of your success, kind of that background of playing for Coach Kincaid, or?
Yeah, you know, and not to have this be a microcosm of my entire life, but just like you're very smart, you didn't know where you were going to land. We had this discussion a little earlier this evening about surrounding yourself with brilliance, be smart enough to recognize brilliance. And now at almost 71, I look back on people that had influenced me, and Coach Kincaid was a pot of gold, a huge influencer, and probably had as much to do with my professional career being a baseball coach as any of the people that influenced me over the years. But go back to my park manager, my 6th grade football coach, Mike Simpson, that became a college administrator later on, and the impact and organization and in a sport that I loved in football. Different people along the way, and Coach Kincaid was a huge one. And again, I was a little afraid that I wasn't going to fit in at Cerritos, right? There's probably 60 guys out there trying out. I was a left-handed catcher. There's probably 8 catchers trying out. I had the worst arm of the 8. I had the worst body of the 8, probably projected worse than the 8. So I was fighting to survive, right? And love sports, love the competitive nature of sports, to try to outwit, outsmart, outcoach, out scheme.
The strategical combat, right?
I grew up doodling football plays, right? I loved football that much, right? I didn't understand
Drawing
baseball.
up your own plays?
On my own plays, yeah. And 'cause I said I was
That's
a
what we had to do when
quarterback.
we were playing football, and you know, like on the street football was always, we're always making
Yeah.
up stuff.
Shame on the Downey football coaches that played me at center and guard. I should have been the quarterback.
Absolutely,
Clearly.
yeah. Well, there's a lot of could have been Hall of Famers out there.
Could have been, yeah, could have been, should have been. But that's the way I was wired, right? Just trying to find a better mousetrap, a better play, a better way to win, ping pong, caroms, over the line, basketball. I wasn't very good at basketball, and you probably weren't either because of your height, but you probably took some kneecaps out trying to get a rebound and finding a way to
Coach,
be
I could
successful.
shoot a little bit. It's just that damn basket was so high. After
Basketball was not my sport. For sure.
I just went, you know, growing up, and I'm going to guess you were kind of like this. I kind of went from football season to basketball season to baseball season. So once fall came around, I'm kicking Nerf footballs or something in the front yard, kicking field goals and kind of mimicking and the Tom Dempsey 63-foot field goal, like I'm always picturing. And then they had this thing called the super toe that came out with this thing you hit the head and the thing kicks the field goals. And then basketball season, I loved the Lakers, but when I hit a certain age, especially when I got to high school, I realized, man, you can get into baseball practice right after football season. So I bypassed basketball playing in high school. But it was kind of a seasonal thing. I would kind of rotate around, but I always felt like baseball was in the blood like all year round. And so I was asking you earlier, your influences in baseball, you'd mentioned your brother was a big influence?
Yeah, both my brothers. I had 2 brothers. One was 4 years older. Another one was 8 years older, my oldest brother. And everything I do in my life is right-handed. I throw a football right-handed. I kick right-handed. I bowl right-handed. Everything.
So what the hell?
I throw a baseball left-handed and hit left-handed.
Well, it's so just
Because my oldest brother was left-handed. So, again, modeling him, have 8mm film of me in a uniform at a year and a half, hitting a pitch ball from my brother's throwing it to me, and hitting left-handed because I put his glove on my right hand.
it makes me think about just how influential behavior is, good or bad, right? That the things that we are around, and you just said it, what you surround yourself with and things like that. So
Yeah,
that's just
go back to the chewing.
Yeah,
Why
yeah,
you do it? Because
yeah.
somebody else did it.
Yeah,
Right? And not very smart to sort through those bad decisions versus the good decisions. But I guess the point I'm making, it wasn't just Coach Kincaid. It was great people
right.
that influenced me because of my career path and my intensity and passion to keep a uniform on or to be playing a sport as long as I possibly could. And genetics wasn't going to let me play professional baseball or football, so my career path went into the cerebral part of it, and
Right.
the most important part of the coaching part is helping young people succeed.
Right. So, were you a teammate of Coach Snow? So, Coach Dave Snow, another legend. When did you guys start to get together?
He actually was a couple years older than I,
Okay.
but I played with his younger brother Tom, both from
who was
Baltimore.
like a substitute teacher or a teacher? Do you remember that? Because I believe I remember a Snow that was a teacher.
Probably,
at some point. Yeah.
Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was another brother that wasn't as baseball related as him. But the other thing is, you talk about social. Well, Coach Snow had a house in Bellflower that somebody that I got to know even better because he became kind of a Long Beach State dirtbag staple. Crazy Joe was a childhood friend. Joe was disabled. And we used to go over, and Joe would conduct Elvis Presley lip sync concerts at Coach Snow's house, and we would have fun.
And what was your song?
Honka Honka Burning Love.
Oh, that's kind of fun. Would you guys like try to go out the lamb chops or anything, or just kind of have fun with it? And this is what age?
I was playing at Cerritos.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So
wow, that's a way to spend a Friday night.
we were going over plays and Friday and Saturday night at Tom Snow's house while Joe Balsinger, Balsinger's his last name, he was putting on a concert. We were trying to develop baseball plays.
God, that is hilarious. So again, there's a lot of things that you didn't know, and I expect to bring them back up. So we're playing Connie Mack, and we're walking into Birdland for a practice. So it was my senior year in high school, and I think I had met Coach Snow once or twice because he was the same age as my brothers, and both my brothers were really good athletes. My oldest brother was like a really, really good athlete, but not really like focused on sports. Let's just say back in the early '70s, and so I'm walking into the parking lot, and Coach Snow's walking out through the gates and sees me in the parking lot, and for whatever reason he knew who I was, and then he goes, "Hey," they want you to play ball here, and he goes, "Do yourself a favor, play ball here." I was like on my way, probably late for practice or something, and I'm kind of giving him half attention. I said, "Oh yeah," and he stopped me. He goes, "They're going to teach you more than the game. They're going to teach you how to be a man." And I can remember this clear thought to myself, looking at him and saying, "Bro, like I am a man. I'm 18. I'm dating a cheerleader. Like I got like, what do you mean? What are they going to possibly teach me, right?" And I kind of remember this look of like, I'll just try anyways with this kid. Like you could just see my mind was just going or whatever. But I never forgot that, right? And then so things kind of transpired later. But I want to go forward to now the Cerritos section of your playing career. Then you coached a year at Cerritos. We just talked about that a little bit. And then you get to LA Valley with Coach Snow, and she coached there a couple years. But now Coach Garrido, Augie Garrido at Cal State Fullerton. So you played at Cal State Fullerton, what year was it?
Well, I played at Cerritos 72, 73
Right.
this spring.
Okay.
Got a scholarship to go to the University of Hawaii. Three of my teammates actually went on a vacation after our sophomore year, not knowing where we were going to go, right? That's how recruiting was back then.
Right.
You didn't know a year in advance or 2 years in advance. And so we went to Hawaii for a 3-week vacation, loved it. One of my teammates wanted to go to the University of Hawaii. So he set it up so where he and I could play on a summer team where Les Murakami, the coach at Hawaii at that time, would come out and watch us, hoping that we would earn a scholarship, right? And so Dan Harridge was my teammate's name, and so we get set up to play a doubleheader on the north shore of the island. We're supposed to be on the Army team, right? We even went to the Meta Colonel and went to the Army base and got our uniforms and all that stuff. And as luck would have it, Danny pitches and gets lit up, doesn't pitch very well at all, and I go off because that island pitching was right up my alley. I had a slow bat, but I could hit. I pick pitches and see what was coming and hit slow pitches. So I went off, and I get offered a scholarship, and Danny doesn't. But I didn't have any other great offers at the time, and I thought, heck, who wouldn't go here to Hawaii, play Division I baseball on a scholarship? And so I lasted one semester then.
So you did? Okay.
Yeah, I went to Hawaii.
Did you get island fever, or what was it?
A little everything. I realized I was wasting my time going to the beach, chasing women, I had a job driving on campus, and that was a great thing, and had a meal plan. But leaving Cerritos, which at that time was light years ahead organizationally and
Right.
players-wise, and playing for a really nice guy, Les Murakami, was a huge step backwards. It was a little bit boring for me.
Right.
Academics weren't going well. I had a little bit of island fever, missing my family, so I had to get out of there. So I chose to leave, and back then we had 8 guys on that team at Fullerton when Augie and Dave Snow were coaching there, and I was the 8th guy, right? And I was a little offended because they didn't offer me a scholarship. They wanted me to come. Coach Snow invited me to try out and walk on, and heck, I don't know if I could afford the $95 that it cost every semester. Right. But it was
up to 300.
Yeah, why? I was the 4th or 5th hitter in a state championship team. I deserved a $95 scholarship, right? So I made the mistake of chasing the money and the fun and the glamour of living in Hawaii, and luckily I realized quickly that it was a waste of my life.
Right. And so you come back and you play there, and so Coach Snow was your coach at Cal State Fullerton.
Yes, and that connection, we talked earlier, Coach Snow played in 70 at Cerritos. That was a 40-1 season when he was a sophomore. They won the state, of course. Coach Weathers, who eventually coached at Long Beach State, was a teammate. And then Coach Snow went up to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to play there, and his coach was Augie Garrido.
Wow. So when I met you, 80, wow, okay. So 84, I meet you, and we have that run. And you were at Cerritos until what year before you went and coached under Coach Garrido at Fullerton? Was it 90?
My last season was 90.
90. Okay. And had he been recruiting you before, or that just kind of, it was an opportunity? How did that come about?
No, I think we created our niche, thanks to
I mean,
you.
Obviously you were having
and
some
we had a really
success,
good run, winning the state every other year in my 6 years there, and then I won a lot of games when I was an assistant for Gordy. Gordy was a brilliant baseball coach and had the privilege of taking over a state championship team, got 5 big leaguers, and not you weren't one of the big leaguers, but what a great player you were.
It was one of those stories, Coach, but we won't go into that.
Yeah, that was probably my fault you didn't make it.
God dang, ever taking ground balls in front of me, and I almost sold my glove after that day of practice. But we'll get into a little bit of that. But I think that the Cal State Fullerton, so your winning percentage was like ridiculous, right? You're talking 800 or something like that, and this is kind of what I found. So now what I'm realizing is that I was a collection of a lot of your influences. I just kind of attributed a lot to Cerritos because that's what I kind of came up through. But the winning percentage when it's high, it's not an accident. It's not because your competition is just inferior. You're just playing a smarter game. Like I just try to explain to people sometimes you're making it easy for us, like just by the way you play the game. And so I'm just curious on what Coach Garrido saw because you and Coach Snow both coached for him. And I think that's an interesting.
Well, leaders are, they create their empires different ways, right? And Coach Garrido was smart enough to hire Dave Snow, that I think is one of the best coaches in any sport that I've ever been around, and influenced me tremendously in different ways than Coach Kincaid influenced me. And his personality, Dave and I are a lot alike in our personalities. He made coaching fun when I got to coach with him. He gave me a lot of responsibility and trust. And
I was going to ask you about that. Like he gave you a lot of autonomy. Like what did he look for you to do? His role was obviously he's the captain. He's overseeing everything. But he told you, look, you this is what you do, which is.
Well, my second year of coaching, I ran the whole offense. I coached third and ran the offense, and he didn't intercede on that. He let me do it. We were awfully good, which made me look smart.
Right.
The players always make the coaches look smart, whatever play you put on. Or,
right.
If you're good enough, you can put on a stupid play and they make it work, right? How would he give you advice, though? So that's something that we talk about now, because in our softball world, there's a lot. I call it almost like a coach's Tourette's syndrome. You just can't help the kid misses the ball. Keep your hand, whatever it is. It's always just automatic out, and there can be a lot of micro managing coaching, and so it's not easy when you
are the top and you have an idea what you want to do, to have the trust in someone that you really just kind of back off and let them feel like it's theirs, right? Because
Yeah.
if somebody's looking over your shoulder all the time, you know, oh man, I'm going to hear it, but he just really didn't do that.
Well, and you didn't experience it, but you were on the team when I was running the offense and Coach Kincaid was the pitching coach, right? Yeah. I'd hear him in the background, you know, my influencer, and he wouldn't be running the offense, but I'd hear him, oh, good time to hit and run here, right? You know, and then he would frame that as, you know, you don't have to do it. It's your team, but don't you remember we used to do this way? You know, that was his way of influencing me. And Coach Snow was unique that we were like brothers, right? We were on the same page. We grew together. It wasn't him correcting me or showing me the way. We were growing together and I think feeding off each other. Now, Coach Garrido was a little bit the other way, where he'd kind of overlook things and change things. And I had the responsibility to write all the practice plans, do all the recruiting, and then he'd come in sometimes at 10 o'clock in the morning and go, oh, I don't like that. Let's do it some way else. Right. And that was a little bit frustrating, right? Because you put a lot of work into each and every practice plan.
Right. Well, and he's and again, anyone that has anything to do with baseball knows the legend that he is. And a lot of his still existing videos are usually when he got a little spicy and had some things to kind of say. So would he really kind of pick his spots when he would do that, or that was just something that came when certain things happened?
I can't tell you how many of those inning by inning blow up discussions in the locker room and the one on the field that people have sent me. Coach, did you see this? And then the reaction of those guys, because they're from maybe my culture or my relationships, and they know how I'm wired, they go, oh, I wish I could have played for that guy, right? Instead of the other way around, where it's like, how can this guy still be coaching with that language and the way he's treating these guys? Right. And if you took that as a representation of what Coach Garrido was like, it would be unfair.
Right.
Because he had a great connection with his players, and his players would take a bullet for him because he was his version of a player's coach. It was different than Coach Snow and a lot different than Coach Kincaid. But one of the things, if anybody's listening out there, and you've done a really good job of this, is there's coaches along the way or influences along the way that you saw fail with their ability to lead and get a buy-in from whoever they're coaching, right? And those coaches that I'm talking about tried to do it in somebody else's personality.
They weren't,
right?
weren't being authentic, right?
They weren't being authentic, and the players hated that, saw right through it, and there was no buy-in whatsoever. So I learned from the good, and sometimes I learned from the bad, and I could pick and choose all these great coaches that I played for as a youngster, and then certainly in college, legendary coaches that are the greatest college baseball coaches of all time. And I would, as I said, I'd have to be a fool not to use a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, sure.
But the mistake would be to not try to be George Horton.
Right.
Right. And so I think that's, if I've had any success, I've been able to do that. Yeah. Take their foundations and maybe elaborate on them, make them a little bit better, modernize them, make them fit into how I want my program to look. And I'm proud to say I've stolen from some great ones that I played for.
As all of us have, right?
And just talked about with Eric about Mike Gillespie, one of my competitors that I learned an awful lot from the other side of the field.
Right, another legend. One of the most recent things that came across my phone with Coach Garrido was actually very profound, where he was talking about leadership and the importance of influence on young people's lives so that they go and make an impact with their lives. So it's probably 3 or 4 to 1 to some of those spicy ones that get more views and things like that. That's probably what people that don't know hooky, there's a couple of things out, and that just, and people kind of remember things, especially nowadays, right? And it's not a thing of judgment or good or bad. It's just kind of the way the world works. But kind of to your point, there's a much bigger picture than sometimes the peaks of certain things of behavior or even success, that sometimes people get known for their success, but then what do you really know? With our world in the softball world, these young ladies have a lot of good opportunities with that for themselves right now. And we talk about branding. We talk about, people getting to know who you are, not just what you do, because that may be the same thing. Like for me, I feel like I am a ball player. That's all I am. But for a lot of these young ladies, they have a lot of good things. We have players across the country that you ask a question, you find out that this kid takes care of the farm while her dad is working in another part of the country, and so she's raising pigs and driving the cattle and stuff, and then going out and hitting change-ups afterwards. So the demographics of every part of the country is a little bit different. I think I remember at one point you might have told me, did you have an opportunity to go to LSU, or was that ever in consideration?
Yeah, it was a good no move, right? It was actually the year that we beat them in their regional in '95 and won the national championship. Skip Burtman drove me around Baton Rouge and described to me that he wanted me to come in and be his right-hand person, and he was going to stay one more year, and then it was going to be my program, right? But
did Coach Garrido know that was happened?
I shared that information with him. You always want to do that.
Sure.
The worst thing is your boss hears it from somebody else. Right?
Well, that's a principal thing too, because not everyone would do that, right? So
thank you for that. But, anyway, I had heard that spiel before. Augie's spiel to me, we started down this road, he was at Illinois. He created his empire at Cal State Fullerton and went for the money with Neil Stoner, the AD that hired him he worked for Neil at SLO and then at Fullerton, and then Neil went to the University of Illinois and paid Augie an awful lot to go back there and do it, and he could only handle the cold for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And came back, the speech was, hey, we had it going pretty good, and I was a professor at the time. There's tenure there. I was raising a family. Division I baseball, could be a couple years. We don't do well, and now what, right? And so, besides that, all my colleagues told me to be careful what Augie was selling me, because he's really good at recruiting and selling things. And his comment was, hey, I'm going to do this 2 or 3 more years. I'm tired. I've got a group, which is basically Rancho Santa Margarita group. He called them the Goomba Bombers, a bunch of rich Italian guys that were going to start a baseball school, and Augie was going to run the baseball school. And then the Cal State Fullerton program would be mine. So I was going to be the associate head coach for a couple, 3 years, run the offense and the pitching, and then Augie was going to leave.
So this is kind of key. What age was he about that time? You remember what he could have been? Because as you start to make that decision, because we could stay in this till our last days, right? And so now he's figuring, okay, I'm tired. I'm going to now kind of pull back and kind of do something else baseball related. But I'm wondering if he was maybe in his 70s.
No, I wasn't that old, because here's what happened, right? So I'm pretty proud of this, right? I think one of my things in Wikipedia, whatever, is not going to say this, right? But he was tired. He was going through a divorce. His back was bothering him. He really, truly believed that he was on his way out. And then between Joe Martelli, Mike Kirby, Rick Van Hook, and I, we took all the crap or the tough things about the stressors of coaching and made it fun for him again. So he could put the glass down, go to the Balboa Bay Club, drive his Mercedes, hang out with some very affluent people in South County, and come into work, and all the heavy lifting was done. And he could be Coach Garrido and put the shining polish up the paint job, so to speak, right? And so that was, again, this is the 91 season. We were terrible in the preseason, then we got good, finished co-champs, so we didn't get invited to the playoffs. 92, we played for the national championship our second year. I'm doing both. We lost 3-2. I get fired from the offensive coach. Now I'm the pitching coach. Kidding about being fired, but we switched roles around. And so we coached 6 years together, right? That's a little longer than 2 or 3, right? And then Augie got the Texas job and coached for 20 more years at Texas, right? So maybe we had something to do with recharging his battery, right? And I got what I wanted. I ended up being the head coach at Cal State Fullerton, so we both got great opportunities after that, and we both hopefully made the most of it. And then because of our relationship and the luck that I had, both being friends with Kevin Costner, Kevin got married in September of that year at his place in his ranch outside of Aspen.
You met him through Coach?
Because he was a Cal State Fullerton alumnus.
Okay.
He threw out the first pitch in 91 when we dedicated the Titan Field.
He'd go out and watch a lot of games. He'd practice with you guys. I know he was a ball player.
Yeah,
Like, he was a ball player.
And
right.
again, serious George. I've the practice plan, all business. Not as much levity. Augie would say, "Yeah, Kevin Costner's coming out wants to scrimmage with us today," and I'd give Augie the token. Okay, what's he want to play? That kind of deal.
Yeah.
But inside, I'm going, "What the hell are we doing?
Right,
We're trying to
right,
build
this guy out here.
a nationally prominent baseball team. We got an actor." But Kevin was different. Yeah. Kevin played short, switch hitter, could play.
You could see that would show even on the camera. Like he had that confidence of a ball player.
But what was different about him is he taught us a lot as a coach, as you would expect. He didn't care about the frilliness and the batting gloves and hitting a home run. He wanted to learn about the players, what they were thinking, what an extra base hit alignment, where do I go? And so the buy-in from the players immediately, and even this serious assistant coach that wanted to just coach baseball, you had to be impressed with who he was as a person.
But that had to present itself. That was respect earned, because I think that was the initial respect, or like for Bull Durham. Like, you, as a ball player, you instantly knew there was ball player jargon in there. It wasn't just this kind of hokey, baseball play. I got to tell you real quick about the celebrity part of it. So, our one of my best friends in the whole world, and I love him so much. But when Craig was playing with the Orioles, Craig Worthington. And so when Tom Selleck was on the tour, because he did when he was when he was playing in Japan, right? He was a Japanese baseball player, and so he was doing the tour, going around. He was taking batting practice at the different parks, right? And so Craig, that's pregame, and one of Craig's gloves is missing from his locker, and he looks up, and Tom Selleck's playing catch with his glove, right? And Craig's and so I think Craig pretty much went up there and said, "Hey, what do you think you are?" Like that, and it just kind of that was just kind of Craig. So that whole thing of like, who's this guy coming out here with all of these things and such like that. So you developed a friendship, and he was involved, or partly, or a lot responsible for like the expansion of the Fullerton facilities. Like when everything kind of changed at Fullerton, the stadium became. Did he have anything to do with that, or is that around the time? No,
I mean
because that was kind of a turning point for that facility. Because I remember the old Fullerton field, right, and Mondo Roman hitting home runs and limping around the field and slamming his bat down, and that was like intense back then. And Ryan Holtz, the left-hander, and was facing the other way or something like that, right?
Yeah, home play was in the left field corner where it is now, right? We didn't have lights, we didn't have restrooms, we didn't have a concession stand or anything.
So what year did the renovation and the stadium change at Fullerton happen?
We played the 91 season at Amherst Park in Fullerton as they were building Titan Field.
Okay.
Right?
How did that compare to Hart Park where Chapman used to play?
Just about the same, right? Okay. We had a little quirky thing and blah, 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 and a train went right back, and we could seat about 200 people, at tops. But the cool thing is it kind of started the tradition with Augie and I, and the train would go by and the whistle would blow. I mean, that's a train to Omaha, right? Started talking that language and blah, blah, blah. And then Nevin became a superstar, right, in the 91-92 season. And
he was a football player too, right? Was he a punter?
Kicker. Kicker. He could have.
I'd imagine he could probably kick it 70 yards.
Oh, his NIL deal would be unbelievable nowadays, right? Golden Spikes winner and a kicker that could kick a 65 yards.
Right.
He'd be at LSU or one of those other places instead of Fullerton, unfortunately.
Right. So I don't know why I thought that maybe he was partly involved in that as well too, because that was a big change at Cal State Fullerton when they built the stadiums kind of side by side, because they created a whole different ambiance that really benefited the softball program later on, because you could be at the softball game, but you got the buzz of the baseball game like right back there. So if you needed energy, you just kind of go back there. And
you
no
get a foul
offense,
ball
but
in the back of your head too. You're watching the game.
Yeah, that's a big heads up. So still friends with him, occasional conversations, because I think that you had shared with me the phone call that he had made to you when you had finished coaching now at Oregon, and you were kind of considering getting back into coaching, and because this is what you do, and you're kind of compulsive, and then you get a phone call. And
very emotional. I was very emotional. I wanted to go one more year up in Oregon, and we weren't doing well, unfortunately, and it was probably
kind of an unfinished business type thing, or just like a
little of that, and wanted to go on my own terms. We had a crummy year, under 500 for one of the few times in my career, and but anyway, they saw it a different way, and it might have been a blessing because that was the COVID year, right? And I was 90 pounds heavier and out of shape, and stressed out, and who knows, had I got the real first wave of COVID, we're not sitting here talking right now.
Right.
So
Wow. Yeah.
God works in mysterious ways,
Yeah.
but we thank our blessings, Francie and I, that
Yeah.
it worked out. But back to my emotion. Now that year, USC, Long Beach State, and Loyola opened up, and I'm still vindictive, think I can do it, want to do it. But two of those, Long Beach State and USC, I hated, right? I grew up hating, even though Coach Snow and I were great friends, that was our rival, right? And a lot of history there, and a lot of what was going to happen in the Big West Conference, and after that, between Long Beach State and Cal State Fullerton, even though Coach Snow was one of my great friends. And
Right.
USC, I've always hated them back when I played, and we played them in the regional, and it was just kind of in my blood.
Right.
Nothing against those institutions. And then Loyola, and so Costner calls me. I'm driving out to Temecula to visit my daughter out of the blue, and breaks it down. He says, George, how many years you been doing this? 43.
So he had heard through the grapevine, or
Friends of friends,
mutual friends, right?
We were friends,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So kind of the deal was, Augie was his first friend, but he was committed to Cal State Fullerton. That's where he graduated from. He always loved baseball, obviously. He thought about playing for Augie, took Augie's softball class, but he was in the business school and the acting school, so he never came to fruition. But then now he throws out the first pitch, Bull Durham, Danny Nolte, expert. When Kevin walks out there, he says, get a hit crash, and Kevin, just like in character, turns around and says, shut up, kid, just like in the movie.
Yeah.
And everybody was gaga over Kevin, right, and Bull Durham. Yeah. But then the depth of him and getting to know him and the players, not only did he come out and scrimmage with us and practice with us, but we played the Angels in '99 at the stadium. Chuck Finley pitches, and Kevin plays short and hits off Finley and the whole thing. And he'll tell the story that I said, I usually say, Kevin, you played really good. He made a backhand play, threw a guy out, struck out twice, but was on time, right? But what he'll remember is we lost the game 2-1, and he dropped a pop-up in the infield that cost us a run. And every time we tell the story, he goes, I dropped a pop-up.
That burns it. He's a competitor still, right?
Yeah, he's a baseball player.
Yeah. So he had some valuable advice for you. So you were considering these jobs, and he kind of said, consider
Well, here's
what?
how he broke it down, right? And maybe this will resonate with some old softball coaches or you.
And the reason why, to stop you real quick, is because in our industry, because coaches love the game so much, right? And it's not that they should know when to stop, but a lot of them don't know when to stop because of the balance of things, of that bigger picture that might not be driving you at home, but it's a big part of it, and you don't appreciate it sometimes till it's gone. So I feel like, from what I understood of the story, he was kind of pointing some of that out to you.
Yeah, and reminded me to keep it in perspective. He used that word a lot, right? Perspective. He goes, look, George, you've been doing this how many years? 43. He said, you've been taken away from your family, given of yourself, helping these young men grow into real men, everything that you've given the game. And you're a lot like me, just like my career,
He was at that point in his career as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not saying yes to everything,
Right.
Yellowstone, politics, the Dances
He's taking
with
care of
Wolves
business,
story,
right.
that he went all in and hit the big time and all that, where he was at a point in his career where he didn't need to say yes to a job to pay the mortgage, or just because it's another notch in his belt, so to speak, or another project. He could pick and choose what he wanted to do because it was his passion instead of kind of a requirement.
So kind of taking more of a hand of now designing his life the way he wanted to.
And choosing to do what he wanted to do. And I think the Yellowstone and this new Western Horizon probably cost him his second marriage, because he was away shooting, and some of the stuff that I've heard and read was part of the problem, right? But again, that's his passion. Taking his baseball or softball away from us is
kind of lose your purpose. Yeah. So did that advice sink in right away, or did you have to kind of deliberate, or
it was like,
how long was it before you realized, okay?
Oh, it made my day, and it was like a 150-pound backpack off my back, right? What do I do? Do I need, because you have a short window, right?
Right.
Those jobs,
Right.
you know, they
Sure.
only stay open, and you got to get your name in there. You got to do it or not do it, and it was that time,
Right.
And so it
Now,
really
at this time, what would Francie have an opinion, or always just kind of support you no matter what you did?
support me no matter what I did, right? She knows how I'm wired and
Right.
would have taken it any way that I chose, but we were on speaker driving out to Temecula, so she heard every word that Kevin said, and he said, look, here's what you should do. You should take a year off, take a step back, right? Reward yourself, your family, Francie. Those 3 jobs that are open, you know, you're going to see it a lot clearer. What do you want to do? Do you want to continue down that road? Do you want to do something else? What career path for the rest of your life do you want to go down? And that year off will bring clarity to that. Instead of, I must do this now and jump into something that you regret.
Kind of in a way, like raising your altitude, it's kind of looking up here and not being down here. So just take some time, look at it, and then you'll figure out which way to go and you plug
That's a
back
good
in.
analogy. And then the other caveat he said is, you know, those 3 jobs, there'll probably be 6 jobs next year, and you might even want
It's not
one.
like those are the last 3 jobs ever, but one of them being Cal State Fullerton, right? And
Yeah, and that-
very special place for you. So
That happened the very next year. That opened up, and there was some thought, do I want to do this? And then I'm having way too much fun doing what I'm doing, coaching softball in your organization.
well, but the thing that I saw an article on you, I think it was done a year ago, but when you talked, you had mentioned, you made a statement I thought was awesome, is like, you used to wake up in the morning thinking about your team and all the things you do, and now you wake up thinking what you can do for your family.
Yeah.
Damn, coach.
It's a new team,
That's big,
right?
yeah.
And it gives me a purpose, right? I mean, come on. That team, my family, that team is so much more important than my other teams, right?
Well, and for me, because again, like we've got patriarchs on the wall that gave their entire lives to softball, and I look at that, and it's not for me to tell them they should have done more. These are great men that they were happy, but I saw their families at their funerals, and sometimes I got the look of like almost like we were the other woman, right? Like, you know, even you know, in their 70s, late 70s, their grandkids didn't see them on the weekends because softball is 40-something weekends a year. So that was, for me, that was a very profound decision because it's kind of the advice. And, you know, we talk a lot, you're on our coaches' calls, even like being middle-aged, and nobody wants to go get a checkup. Nobody wants to go and you know, until something bad happens or something like that. So I think a lot of this advice, and if you can get counsel, even peer counsel, is just really important, and open your ears. And it's hard when you're confident. Like, I'll speak for myself. It's hard when you're confident and you feel like you know, because you don't let a lot of things in. You obviously are pulling things that influence you, but there's not a lot of things that influence you. So you're kind of used to driving your own machine. So I just think that that's really big. My parents had their house in Bellflower. My sister bought the house on the right. My other sister bought the house on the left. Next to that house, my brother's daughter, my niece, bought the house after that. And so your living situation kind of is almost a, you know, and that was very unique. And you know, I have a son that's 32 that still lives with me, and there, somewhere people would think that they're all supposed to go away or anything. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You know, grandparents love being around their kids and their grandkids. So your living situation now is pretty ideal.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. We left the house, went up to Oregon, and when I had that opportunity, and Michelle and Andy and their 6 kids moved in there, and you know, I've gotten the fortune of Francie's career. She did very well as a professional, and my career as a baseball coach. We've got paid very well and collected some assets, and we were able to hold on to some houses in California. And okay, it's retirement time, right? Am I going to retire? And where do I want to retire? You know, been to Oregon, been to a lot of places that are really cool. I want to be around my kids, right?
This is home.
Yeah, this is home. This is what makes me feel good, and give back to those weekends and things, those proms, those Girl Scout things, and because I raised 3 girls that I miss. Now, how can I give back? You know, I can't change the mistakes I made raising them or raising my voice to them or whatever, but I can win every single day.
From this day on, right.
Give them as much as I got every single day.
It's kind of like your next at bat. You know,
It is.
You still got the next at bat.
Yeah,
So
and I actually do that.
So they're all pretty close to you now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
One in Costa Mesa and 2 in Yorba Linda.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome.
all my 9 grandkids are 2 minutes away. So
So retirement has been how many years now?
this will be my 6th coming up.
6 year. So 40 years after I have the privilege of playing for you, I get a freaking phone call out of nowhere from you. I can't even tell you how I got nervous for the first time in 40 years, I think. And I'm like, I remember just thinking, did I do something? Like, I've got a pretty clean slate here, but I'm like, oh shit, you know. And you asked me if I can get you a discount on a firecracker hat. And I'm like, what, Coach, what are you doing? Like, I'm displaced right now, and I'm usually the one controlling the narrative, right? And you said, my granddaughter's a firecracker. So Sammy comes along, and you've got, how many grandkids total?
9.
Oh, you just said, okay. So, and how many ball players? What are the ages of your grandkids? Oldest grandkid?
Youngest is 6 male.
Okay.
Then 9 male, and then 7 girls. Oldest 25.
Okay. And how many are playing ball right now? I know of 2.
3.
3.
Sammy's 16.
Okay.
She's the youngest
She's growing, by the way.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
She's. And then the two boys, the 9-year-old and the 6-year-old, are playing Little League, and I'm an assistant coach on both of their teams as well.
And it's just so, to me, it's so awesome to submerge yourself, you know, back now at the grassroots level. And, you know, when you started to get into softball, and so now I want to kind of take it into, but it's not just softball, because I also want to ask you about your Little League experience too, because you had made a comment about corralling cats or something like that.
Yeah, herding cats
or something like that. So let's start with that, coaching little boys in baseball.
Well, you know, the misconception is this coach, me,
With your
that has this
background, everything, right?
reputation, and the parents are overwhelmed that he's going to come out and be the assistant coach, and we're our youngsters, right? And
Kids don't know who you are.
yeah, they don't care, you know. And guess what? I coach college guys, so I'm sitting there learning from other Little League coaches, including my
What
son-in-law.
Little League's about, right?
How do you get these guys to do things, right? I'm the first to say that we've been out-coached a lot in Little League, right? And it's just a matter of their attention spans, of trying to get their attention span long enough to complete one baseball play.
How often do they have to go pee in the middle of the game?
Well,
so not too bad of a.
Some
I
of
just
them
remember that
go,
with my son.
We don't care. They just go in their pants. That's our rule. We can't miss a pitch. You know how I'm wired, Tony. You can't go to the bathroom.
Throw some dirt on it.
Just go on it. Go
Throw some
right
dirt
now.
on it.
Nobody's going to say anything. My big mistake was buying them bubble gum. You know, they start out reasonably wired. You know,
Right.
grabbing each other, and then by the 3rd inning, after 20 pieces of gum, they're climbing in the dugouts, and
Right.
they can't pay attention.
I'm just picturing you out there at times looking at the dugout going. So your coaching is strategically placed with them.
Yeah, I'm the pitching coach until we walk 19 guys in a 4-inning game.
Don't tell me you got that's not fired, but repositioned in Little League.
Yeah, well,
Coach, it's hit spots. Like you just got to figure out the terminology. You get you guys would get an hour of video games if you just do this. That's the trade-off right now, right?
I've learned a lot about your range pitching.
Try to get away from
adjustments.
the coercion part of coaching of like do this or else you're going to get that, or if you don't do that you're going to get this. But how can we motivate and
I mean,
inspire?
if you write 4 things on their hat that they have to do is plant foot, breath, target, not pitch, throw.
Yeah.
Right? Pitch. That's a problem for a little leaguer, because now they've got to get to their balance point, and they go from having the greatest arm ever, nice and loose, throwing strikes, playing catch, and now they're on the rubber, so they've got to have this perfect delivery, and it's all segmented, and the ball goes off the backstop, and there's no way with those mechanics they can throw.
Well, and I feel like that just so far, like when we talk about what baseball looked like in the 50s and 60s and the looseness of the arm and the slots and, Marshall throwing 10 innings and, just being able to throw. And so it's always the chicken or the egg, right? Were the mechanics invented, and then when you can do that, you can play the game, or did you grow up playing a game where you hit targets, you over the line, pepper and stuff? And so a lot of these kids, and I can't speak for the boys that I know, I'm not in that side of it, but for a lot of these girls, they never experienced what we experienced. So I would imagine for myself, because I never had a lesson in anything, so hitting the bottle or winning a game or copying something I saw on TV, but I had no feedback on anything. I could either hit it or not, right? And so you might miss something, but again, it was trial and error. So if I miss something, if I could hit something that big out of my yard, then I grab something that big. If I hit something that big, then I grab something that big. I remember trying to hit the little gnats that would fly in the patio right around sunset, and I would get a little stick, and I would just see if I could hit them because they would move. They would hover, and then they move, and I would like, oh, you can't hit those gnats, right? And so, a lot of times I tell these girls, unfortunately for you guys are starting from like the mechanical side of this, which I probably wouldn't even have played if somebody was analyzing my body. And I get it. Chicken or the egg, right? There's always plenty of conversations about this. Were the mechanics and the metrics, did those come first, or did those come as a result of watching people play the game a certain way and then measuring them and looking at the metrics and saying, okay, because part of what, and we could do a whole talk on this that we'll do another time, is, there's a lot of analysis of what the body does right now, but I don't hear enough of what these players are thinking, especially going back to the old days. And I always felt like it was what was going on in here, that whether that actually happened or not, that's what made it successful. I mean, how could you ever discount a Hall of Famer from 30 years ago, or these guys that we know could play, but we didn't come from a day of lessons. And that's why I'm such an advocate, and it just sounds funny because softball's a business now and things, but I think it's really important for people to understand that you don't have to pay for every half hour of practice. Like, I couldn't imagine if I had to pay for every half hour of practice. Well, I couldn't have. Like, this was at the park, playing all day long, and, the rec room in the summer, like just being there, and you mentioned caroms and ping pong and stuff like that. It was a really rounded out type of situation. So coming back over here, and now you're also coaching softball. And so that's been, I told you I'm going to stick by you and decide I got to let you experience it on your own, but I'm not going to let you fall. And so you've got a couple years under your belt with that. And so softball, the same yet different from baseball.
Oh, a lot different, yeah.
But are you seeing what is the same? Like, I feel like the core insight, instincts, it was like earlier you were talking, and almost like things that I thought was a certain story, and then there was a sub-level story that you might have told me about Coach Garrido, and then there's a sub-level story. And so it's interesting when you're working with the kids that it's the same type of thing. There's different levels to your experience. And for me, the insight, and I got this from Coach Cangarea, who is he still is a Hall of Fame coach and one of the greatest coaches ever. But he's like, Tony, I come from baseball too. And so the insight, the fake bunt, the, deacon somebody, we don't really do it in double plays, but creating instincts, a lot of that came from baseball. Like, I didn't see that as much as softball when I came over here in the early 90s. So that's what I mean as far as that's what is still from baseball. But softball is just it's a different platform. It's like going from a regular car to like a little go-kart or something, game's a lot faster. So I want to ask you, what's been your experience so far in...
Yeah, I'm just scratching the surface, really. As a Little League coach, I kind of alluded to that with the kids, right, the boys, of watching other guys that have success, and how can I connect with them? Because, we have a new generation. Everybody's complaining about this generation, the microwave society and blah, 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 blah. Right. Well, young people don't care what you know until you get to know them, right? So how do you get to know a 6-year-old?
They care that you care.
They care that.
I don't think that's a conscious thing either. That's just something that, again, when that is there, I worked a little bit in the physical therapy world, and every now and then I'd grab a certain book that kind of appealed to me, and I don't even remember the name of this book. I just remember the first sentence on the first page was, if you can't care, you can't cure. And that resonated with me because I choose to care about people. So I was like, man, that book was really insightful to me because it kind of bridged almost compassion in how you're relating to people when you're trying to help them restore their health and things like that.
Yeah, and I think that's the value I bring to our softball organization, right? The experience of having a long, difficult journey in a very difficult sport with very driven players that wanted to reach not only the college level and be All-Americans, but play professional baseball. So the intensity, how they're driven. And, I don't know what these young ladies that either have to or get to work with me on a regular basis think of me. They heard about this baseball coach that's coming out, and I warned them how I'm wired, and I catch myself all the time being condescending and a little too demanding, and not really my bedside manner or my approach to them has got to change, and I'm learning. But I apologize to them all the time. Oh, wait a minute, I'm not coaching 18 to 23-year-old young men that are on full scholarship here playing baseball, right? They have a significant value, and they do some things a lot better than my college baseball players. I just have to sort through how to get to that, right?
It's a different puzzle. Like, it's definitely a different puzzle. There's again, Coach Candrea told me this in early 90s. Girls have to play good to feel good. I'm sorry, girls have to feel good to play good. Guys have to play good to feel good. So there's the long car ride home. Yep. So if we're on the same team and some guy struck us out twice, we're pissed off. And then, older, we're probably drinking a 12-pack afterwards, and we're determined to go get that guy next day, right? The initial feeling for so many of these young ladies is that they disappointed the group. So disappointing the group is not just I struck out and I got to get that guy. It's like I cooked dinner for everyone and I burnt the turkey. So it registers kind of the same. And it's always fun for me to have, I guess the fun of the challenge, because sometimes if I've got a family in a room and they're pretty upset about things, or maybe there's some relationship problems happening. So I try to, with compassion and a real truth to that, try to explain to the young lady, this is how your dad is, and this is how we are. And so if your dad was to ever hear 20 years from now that his granddaughter didn't play softball because of the way he treated you, that's going to kill him. Like, not literally kill him, but that's going to hurt him hard. So this is an opportunity right now. And so you have to almost reroute. And I heard a statement this week that I thought was, again, profound, that and I think we're in a world of this right now. Most people, or too many people right now, say what they feel, but they don't say what they mean. And when I heard that, I thought, oh man, there's the classic coach right there. He says what he feels. What the fuck? But I didn't mean that. Like, I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean that. And I guess it could be the same in relationships and things like that. When I went and watched you guys in Colorado in the summer, and as an observationist and a kind of a behaviorist, there was that term buy-in. I don't really like the term, but I mean, it's there, right? You can tell when kids don't buy in. Like, I would have been able to tell coach if those kids weren't bought in. They were bought in. And I think it's whether it's the apology afterwards, or, like, for me, experiencing your coaching, but it was really the talks afterwards. And then maybe just the 2 or 3 times that you might have had some personal advice for me. But it created a balance to the relationship. So it's like roots. Those roots with young ladies are really important, because then when this thing does tip over like a palm tree, it doesn't break. But without those roots, then they don't know, right? And if they don't know that, and so you had that, because then I listened to your post-game talk with them as well. And so then what ends up happening is, and I really appreciate you being on the coaches calls every week, right? But again, we're just sharing opinions. I just tell coach, I'm trying to help you guys make sure that you don't repeat the mistakes that I made 30 years ago, really kind of fast forward your learning curve. But we're experience creators. So, we're having experience. This was the first time experiencing here today, but I decided let's bring the chips and the salsa, and there's a lot of things kind of going on. But I didn't want this to feel like a stuffy warehouse for these people that might be here for the first time. I think that's a big part of coaching. And so now strategically, because hitting is hitting, right? And pitching is not. I still don't look at the mechanics of pitching. But coach, I still use the boom boom. I think this was like Coach Snow and Coach Gillespie. Like, I did a lot of that stuff. Like, when I played for you, I watched these guys. I soaked everything in. I said, I like that guy's signs, and I picked their signs. Like, I was watching what they're doing. I go, okay, curveball, drop, like I do in softball. Pitching's still pitching, and the success that our program has had was basically just, and again, you it's like talking about anything, right? Talk about it too much and people are like, oh, well, then I don't want to do it, right? So I don't like to talk too much about, are we off, or is that?
No.
Okay. Are you okay? Did you just
Wrong
fall asleep
button.
and hit your head on the board, or
Wrong button.
trying to get attention? Is that what you're doing?
Not about to be a perfect break for part 1 and part 2.
So you guys talked about that. Listen, when this is good, and I did the whole hour and a half, I'm just going to keep this in there. They preferred it that way, because again, I think when people relate to this, I know when I do, and I watch a podcast, the only thing that'll stop me from watching is I fall asleep, and then I'll watch that part 2. So we're gonna roll with this thing, because right now we're in this component here with the pitching. It's command. Like, I try not to say hit spots now all the time or control, but have command of your stuff. With command comes reliability, right? And so if we know where it's going, for the most part, we know how they're going to hit it. If we can control our location and we can control their contact, and let's just say we don't give away a lot of the game, because I always feel like our game is whoever makes the least mistakes wins, because it's really hard to play mistake free completely for a whole game. So strategically, are you seeing that fits in, or are there, like, I kind of wonder about the slapping game even. How's that going?
As far as all the nuances of softball and how you attack somebody, where the weaknesses are, I learned a lot about that, right?
But it's kind of the same as baseball, like, you know, the low and away and the change in speeds and getting people off balance. And
yeah,
again,
but I'm a kind of an inside game scientist, you know, the slash game, the bunting game, get them on, get them over, get them in, known for little ball.
Productive at bats,
when we're
absolutely.
winning, right?
That's the systematic stuff I was talking about earlier, right?
Correct.
Right.
I get most of that. And I think the thing I'm most proud of, and I think this is an important part of our conversation here, that I promised them. I said, I don't know how this journey is going to be. It might be a little rough for you because I'm a college guy and I might be stepping on your toes. Sometimes maybe be, not intentionally, but maybe be a little bit confrontational, demeaning, a little too loud sometimes or whatever. I just asked them because I don't have that respect. Like you said, you came into our program at Cerritos and I had already established a certain credibility, right? And I was running a program that only had elite players in it. So you had to make some adjustments to even be a part of that, where I felt like I was joining them. They were from another organization. We joined the Firecrackers. We were blessed to have you allow us in with Andy and Beto. And I wasn't going to apologize for who I was, but I tried to explain to them my real value of what I can bring to them is I can help them through the transition of a young lady into a lady in the academic and athletic part of that, right? Their challenges of balancing their social life, their relationships, and trying to get a scholarship and play well in a competitive environment.
And not the, I don't want to say distraction, but not the component of, I mean, yes, there's a pro league, but not like baseball pro league, right? So you don't have, so the end game for 99% of these girls is the opportunity to get an education, which softball is plentiful, pretty much access to any university with a softball program, even like the Ivy Leagues, right? So it's not necessarily, they don't have scholarships, but they get you in. They get you to the front of the line. There's a lot of people in the country that have the money and have the grades, but they don't play a sport, and they're an applicant, and you're a hell of a shortstop. So there you are, and you're playing for Harvard. So those opportunities now are, I don't want to say, is it good to not have that distraction, but I mean to just kind of stay focused because you kind of know the end game for a lot of these girls.
Yeah, and
because your team's 16 and under right now, and they're just getting into that recruiting.
Well, you're experiencing this, and you know, I'm that much older than you, right? And so the real barometer in coaching for me is 20 years from when you coach somebody, right? What tools did you give your children to navigate through life?
Right.
What tools do you give your softball team to navigate through a very difficult failure-based sport like baseball is? Because you're going to have a lot of downs. You're going to have a lot of frustrations. You're not going to always get what you want in life, even if you outwork everybody every single day. It's not going to just show up. But I can guarantee that if you don't work harder than everybody else, it'll never show up. And really, so you've helped me with perspective, maybe taking a little bit of a breath, not being that coach that reacts like I would if I recruited you. And I've made what I call deposits with Tony Rico. I've made a lot of deposits. I've told you a lot of good things. I've worked with you. You trust me. I get to know you. And now that day where we're on the mound and I tell you we don't do it that way. Right? If I hadn't made those deposits, then you might just say, I'm out of here. And we never have a relationship, either personal or coach to player. You don't trust me.
The influence came, like you were just talking about, the notoriety that you might have had by the time I played for you. I was aware of it, but I really wasn't. Again, I was a knucklehead kind of local guy. But what I recognized instantly was the respect that you had in the game. See, that's why I do the line. If I didn't see that, if I didn't see, a guy in the streets, like he has respect in the streets, you kind of respect that guy, you kind of see it. However, he got that, right? So that was very immediate. Even the different type of respect that you individually had from other teams, other coaches, but from my teammates. And so that's really was the intrigue of the respect of like, dude, you need to draw this boundary for yourself because you don't want to lose the respect of that guy. And that was really on a day-to-day basis how you carried yourself. And getting heated or those are little spikes, but that's not the story. Like the story is all these things. We just kind of remember those types of things. And, I don't spend much time thinking about being proud of myself or anything, but to have you kind of blast back in here 40 years later, and I felt like all I want to do is like, Coach, look, freaking everything is in here. It's like you and my mom and dad, like, just look, I didn't fuck this whole thing up. Like, look, because I have that guy before I played for you that he didn't give him, and he would have been self-destructive for a principal reason, right? Like I definitely had a martyr mentality. I'd be the first guy to jump off or punch a guy and then cost myself whatever. And so between the boundaries or all those things and the culture of our program, which I've already prioritized because I'm competitive as anyone else, but I think a couple things. The fortunate kid that I am to come from the family I have, but also when we'd won a couple of national championships in softball, and you kind of sit there afterwards, and there was just some experiences, even the night that we'd won, and talking to the team, and not everyone's happy because they didn't play. And I just thought, this is a bunch of bullshit. Like what is this? And then I love being on the field. I love analyzing. I love like breaking down the other side. But the behavior, right? The lack of personal management, which was really me before I played for you. I just kind of get tired of it. Like it just another third base coach, like mad dogging or 8-0, and it's just the respect that you taught us, right? Put yourself in the other dugout, right? Don't ever forget what it's like to be in the other dugout. So that's why we don't do that here. So every time I see something, I'm like, ooh, gosh, if I did that to you, you really wouldn't like that. And so my passion really became, and as the demand for the expansion of what we were doing was really the culture, right? And I think that's, when I say proud of, that's not something that I did now. When you get on those coaches meetings and you hear that interaction and you hear people that don't have the knowledge that we have as baseball strategists and deeper levels of the game, but they bring all this experience of recruiting, or they bring this experience, like last week was fundraising and different things like that. And it's just like, there's no way I could provide all that. So I'm proud of that network. I'm proud that people, even if it's 40 to 50 coaches on a weekly call, that they make it a priority for themselves. And I'm constantly getting feedback because I'm not here to waste my time or yours. Like I got plenty of things I can do for that hour, but that hour is very, very important. Even the monthly meetings that we have with our players. So as a product of your teaching and all the things I've been lucky for, like I'm so happy that you can find what you need here, at least for this time, to help you, and it's to provide the surrounding kind of support that you need, because you're not going to be doing this 40 years, and it's not going to take the 10-year learning curve. But then also you're out there on your own. I've talked about this, and I had mentioned to Andy, we have a new kind of a select program that we're creating with just kind of the higher level IQ ambitious player. And at some point, I just don't know how and when I'm going to implement it. But this knowledge that you obviously have is what I'm looking to implement. And I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. So I don't know if it's going to be like this. I don't know if it's going to be, I'll figure that out. But these kids need to hear, I remember being next to your dugout this summer and just hearing the words, and I was going, gold, like gold, like gold. I could go to 100 dugouts and I pretty much just want to leave after 5 minutes. And it's all of that stuff, Coach. It's the insight. Like I remember, because I do this, right? Play happens and you turn around to the dugout and you're just constantly talking to the dugout, right? I'll turn around to the dugout and go, what do you see? And so if a kid's not paying attention, she just looks like that. I go, trust me, I'm watching you because you're on the end of the dugout and you're not playing. So you're the one I'm watching most. When we're in the third base box and our team's in the first base dugout, I just tell our players, I go, I'm just watching all of you, like everything that you're watching and everything else. But at the end, when they see that it works, because what I got to experience in the 2 years that I played for you was watching the Mike Benjamins, was watching these players that didn't have that type of instruction, and then watching what they did with it and going on to 11-year big league careers, and Ever Magianis, and it was amazing, Coach. So thank you. Like I can't thank you enough. The responsibility to continue to try to help people is it's an opportunity. Like it's not a burden at all. I also feel like, and I definitely get this from you, and I got this from my parents. My shoulders are big enough to carry this, so I don't ever feel burdened. There's no one's ever gonna like ruin my day, or we have shit we have to deal with, and you just minimize it. I feel like the people in our industry don't minimize the crap. They go on and on about it. And they don't wash it off their shoe, and then they take it to bed with them, and then they lay next to their spouse, and then go, oh, on this one, and then God forbid you answer the phone on Sunday night when you didn't play this kid or this kid didn't pitch. I go, no, wait, that's my time. Like I'm not answering that phone. I probably spent first 10 years of my coaching career as a single parent, most of the time on the phone just talking to softball people before I realized that, wait a minute, this will go on and on and on. But the dynamic was at some point you never hear from them again because their kids age out and then they're gone, and that's just the cycle of it. So we're friendly, but we're not friends, because friends kind of carry a relationship, and there's a certain communication. And so I will explain sometimes to dads that are buddy. I go, look, this is great, but bro, you want to be my friend? Then call me when your daughter's gone. Let's go out for a Dos Equis. But until you do, listen, don't take it the wrong way. I just don't want to lie to you or myself, because in 10 years we're never going to see each other again. And that's kind of the place of a coach for a lot of people. You're kind of in people's lives, and then you're gone, and think this is what we do. But I'm at peace with that. Like I really love that. And I have a couple friends. There's probably not a ton.
Yeah,
but,
and I bet you on the negative side, been invited or had to go to some funerals.
Well, more than
And you get invited to a lot of weddings because of the impact that you made. And I was starting to talk about, giving these girls or my teams the tools to pave their own road instead of paving the road for your children or your team or stacking the deck. Give them the tools to pave their own road. And talking about deposits and investments and missteps, Augie, that situation. Well, this wristband is one of the measurements in my life, and I might tear up a little bit.
But tell me about it.
Well, this is says Karopsy on here. Jason Karopsy played for us in the early 2000s, and probably 2 or 3 weeks before this story happened, on a text thread, a bunch of my ex-players, somebody threw a blow maybe at me, and it was Jason that said, remember when Coach Horton called our 0-2 Titan team the worst team in Cal State Fullerton history? And I was taken back by that. I was like, ooh, I didn't think I was.
You even said that?
That sounded like Coach Vanderhook to me, not me, and kind of worked my way. Did I really say? Well, first thing I did is I went back and looked at all our records, and I was right. It was the worst team in Cal State Fullerton. So I reminded Jason about that the next time I talked to him and apologized if that was demeaning to him. However, about 3 weeks later, I get a call from his mom. Again, a kid that had that text, a kid that his senior year, a guy named Justin Turner came in as a freshman and beat him out at his position, second base, where he was supposed to be the senior second baseman his senior year, had played as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and now this was his time. Justin beat him out, right? So when you're a senior and you're not an everyday starter at Cal State Fullerton, that's a little angst, right? That's a little like, well, what about me, And a kid that was a bat boy for us. Jason was a bat boy for us. And so that's how his senior year looked like it was going to end up. Well, he ended up being a significant player, played a lot, had to play left field some, this and that. So now, 20 years later, I get a call from his mom thinking that this kid's not one of my guys that would do anything for me. I have a bunch of some of those guys out there that I've coached over the years. You might be one of them. And didn't think Jason was one of those guys. And so his mom calls me crying and says, Jason's got stage 4 kidney cancer. Would you be the one that walks him through this battle?
Ooh.
Wow. Right? What a validation. Right? Haven't done a lot with him. He lives in Yorba Linda. I bump into him occasionally.
Not knowing the influence that you really, really had.
Not realizing the respect maybe or the influence I gave and displayed to his parents, that they would trust that I would be the guy that could help him through this difficult journey.
Wow. Yeah.
And this is just a sign of all of us, all the Titan Nation got together. He's gone through 2 sessions of chemo and winning the game. He's in the first inning right now, down by a run and playing it pitch by pitch. And first thing I texted him was, hey, you thought it was really bad when you played for me for 4 years. Well, guess what? That just prepared you for this real journey and what you're about ready to go through. So for me, Tony, that's the ultimate, right? And I had a similar story when they recognized the 04 team 20 years later at the Titan dinner. And just looking at these young men 20 years after you coached them and what they're doing now is the real measurement of how you did as a coach, right?
Yeah, that's incredible. It's funny because you wear that. The only thing I wear in mine, Coach Normie passed away 8 years ago, and it's rest in peace, Norm. But this is what he would say. This is the key: keep it calm and simple.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier about the kind of the 4 checkpoints. The breath is just like, and, we have some instructional videos and stuff. The deep breath video on the Firecrackers School and on demand is the most viewed video of anything that we've done. Just kind of, everyone knows what it is, but they don't really have a conversation about it. So that bigger picture, Coach, you were mentioning about weddings and funerals. With my own personal situation, so weddings for me are just kind of off the table. I never really went to one. Went to one, but funerals for coaches of significance that gave a lot. But this gentleman over here was one of the only funerals that I went to when his mother passed, and it's really because of what Ben was to me and kind of what he gave to this program. And we really wouldn't have expanded if it wasn't for Ben and kind of him coming to me. And even, we'll go into another probably conversation on just kind of what this is for him right now. But that's kind of just returning it and not forgetting. I think that to some degree, I don't want to say that we're all kind of broken, and to some degree, even if it's small or something like that. So all got our deals, but never forgetting. I think that goes back to being the son of a soldier and the generation that our parents kind of came from. And so I'm excited about, and to the point I wanted to think about when you just mentioned about him, what you are going to make sure is that he plays the game the right way. So it might be the first right now, but however long this game goes or whatever it is, and hopefully for quite a long time, but you're going to make sure he plays the game the right way, Coach, because that's really what it came down to. So the difference maker for me, where would I be if I wouldn't have keep the poise in the glove and then just went to another school, like you said, go be a superstar at, and I wouldn't be sitting here right now, that's for sure. I probably would be maybe actually retired from a job that doing 30 years from, because I don't see actual retirement.
That's what normal people do.
Yeah, so I got 34 years. Isn't this when you kind of retire? And I'm like, here I sit there putting like another 10-year project on my plate. But I could hate what I do. So anyways, Coach, thank you. Again, I think in a continuing series of this, I want to get into like how to play the game and perspective, because I think that's a word that I use a lot. And I think that a lot of people that might be listening to this, a part of this is to make it relatable, right? It's not about what you've done or I've done or what they can't do. It's really like looking at facets of us and realizing that, I say for myself, if I can do this, anybody can do this. So I love you, Coach. Thank you. Looking forward to it. And, don't hesitate to pick it up if you face a team like the Corona Angels or something like that. That's just a handful, and because that's what it's like. Because in the mix, I've learned past all of these personas and all of these things, and a lot of these people are the ones I work with on a bigger basis, that even in softball, with the things that take place on the field, behind all that is like a common denominator. And the hardest thing to do in my world is find a common denominator of people of principle that can stick to it and not be flighty over it and create some kind of personal agenda. So I'm going to keep trying to help people as much as I can. But to my parents and you, thank you. I really appreciate you. I love you a lot. And thanks for spending this time with me.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. And I'm learning a lot from you, too. I can't wait.
That doesn't sound right. That does sound right. All right. We'll see you guys next time.